the interesting part of that for me is it's kind of the technology angle is the fastest ever, and then the real estate business angle is the slowest ever. So it's kind of the two opposites are meeting each other. Because if you take a building, if you build a proper building, they're lasting for a couple of 100 years if you build it properly. And
Right.
if we look into city development, you're not building a city to reinvent it after half a year because, like, yeah, we have figured out we should have done it differently. It's not going to happen.
Yeah. Well, look, an interesting take on what you were just saying there, which I think is a really good point, is slightly theoretical, but I think it's just interesting to put it this way. I was trying to do some of this in my talk at the Innovation Jam, which is just to reframe how people are thinking about these things a little bit, right, and to be
Mm,
slightly provocative. But if you think of the city, the almost the most functional framework to conceptualize a city nowadays is in a more organic, ecological, metabolic sense. The city is really like an organism. You know, if you zoom out, if you were to have a perfect uh, 200-year time lapse from space of a city, and then you were to look at the metabolism of a cell under a microscope, you would think, man, those are very, very similar processes. So what's going on there? Well, in my opinion, in my understanding of this, cities are like an organism, and if you think about the scale of a city, then you think about the time scale at which the metabolism operates. For example, if we look at an ant, we think, man, that thing's going a mile a minute. Is really fast. They're all kind of flooding all over each other. And if you look at an elephant, we think, man, that thing is really slow. It's a lumbering beast. And that's just because we're in the middle of a scale with an ant on one end and an elephant on the other end. In other words, our perception of how fast things progress has to do with the scale of our bodies as organisms. And so if you think about the scale of a city, it's so big compared to us that the actual metabolism, how fast these things change, is extremely slow, right?
mm.
The lifetime of a city might be thousands of years. So if you think about it in an organic or anatomical sense, a city is like an organism that lasts thousands of years that's going through these organic processes. And so, yeah, the technology might be moving like lightning right now. But the reality is it's bumping up against this sort of organismic force that is extremely large in its time scale and extremely slow to change. So it's a very interesting contrast that you bring up there.